Good morning and welcome, folks, to another daily update. It's a new week. It's Monday, the 11th of May today. What a fascinating day or two we've had in the news. For the first time, really, since the lockdown began, Boris and his team have come under really strong criticism. A lot of people unhappy about how things have been relayed to the public. For some bizarre and unexplained reason, the government changed their tagline from stay at home to stay alert before the press conference actually began yesterday. So there was no explanation for this at all, and people began to complain almost immediately that this was mixed messages coming out of Downing Street. And then in the press conference itself, it seems that more and more questions were surfacing and not a lot of answers were being given. Boris's new message is that you're allowed to go out to exercise a bit more. You can even sit in parks with a friend. You can drive places to go for exercise, all of which, though, still require appropriate social distancing. He talked about trying to reopen the hospitality sector in the coming weeks and months. He wants to push for primary schools reopening in June. And one of the most controversial things was his message that if you're unable to work from home, then you need to kind of just get back to work. And really, it's fair to say that the general public's reaction and even the journalists' reaction to all this was not positive at all. It seems that the consensus is Boris is trying to pull off the impossible, and a lot of questions need to be asked about the safety of these new relaxed rules, and a lot more info is needed about how people are to go back to work, including maybe guidelines for both employers and employees, things like public transport operators, how are they supposed to handle all of this? So a lot of uncertainty now sits in the air, and people are calling for much more clear information. Of course, here we need to remember that this is actually just for England. Our executive have their own rules, and they're supposed to be giving more of a plan, I believe, later today, if not in the next few days. So not a lot actually has changed in Northern Ireland over the weekend, but these changes in England certainly suggest that change here is maybe on the way. Although I do still get the impression that our politicians are going to err on the side of caution, and perhaps that's not a bad thing at this point. In other news, though, great hope from New Zealand, where dear friends Becky and Peter Purcell live. Across the entire nation there are now only 90 active cases, meaning they are actually very close to eradicating the disease completely. So they're looking at reopening restaurants, shops and cinemas in the next few days, actually, as a result of that. So despite the uncertainty and the confusion that sits because of what happened over the weekend, we're still actually headed in the right direction. For now, we're still moving towards a time when lockdown will be lifted and we'll be able to get on with our lives. But we do need to remain careful not to simply just plough ahead too quickly in case the virus then picks up pace once again. In High Street Presbyterian News, our church magazine is going to be off to the printers here and will hopefully be distributed amongst members of our church this week, maybe by the weekend, hopefully, depending on when we get them back from the printers. And we also have a few new videos on our YouTube channel that you can check out, including 4 beautiful praise music videos provided by Aubrey Bell of him playing a few familiar hymns on his guitar. So thanks to Aubrey for that. Please go and check those out if you haven't already done so. And I just want to finish today by reading from Psalm 67, and perhaps this can be our prayer today and even for this entire week. It simply says this: may God be gracious to us and bless us and make his face shine on us, so that your ways may be known on earth, your salvation among all nations. May the peoples praise you, God. May all the peoples praise you. May the nations be glad and sing for joy, for you rule the peoples with equity and guide the nations of the earth. May the peoples praise you, God. May all the peoples praise you. Let's continue to pray that through this situation, more and more people would turn their eyes to God and find blessing and joy in Christ. Our prayer ought to be for the salvation of the nations, that many eyes would turn and see Christ seated at the right hand of the Father. Remember, all is not lost, folks. There is always hope. Put your trust in our great and mighty God. Until tomorrow, stay safe, and as ever, God bless.